The Pro Bowl just turned into a war zone. What was supposed to be a celebration, a lighthearted showcase of the NFL's best talent, exploded into one of the most controversial moments of the entire offseason. Shedeur Sanders stepped onto the field, the cameras locked onto him, and then it happened. A false start. A simple mistake that every quarterback makes at some point. But what happened next was absolutely insane. The crowd erupted, not with boos, not with laughter, with chants, loud, coordinated, vicious chants, demanding that Shedeur Sanders be canceled, removed, erased from the NFL before he even plays a single regular season snap. This wasn't just a bad moment. This was a full-blown mob attack on a rookie quarterback, and the video has gone viral for all the wrong reasons. If you want the real story behind the chaos, the full breakdown of what actually happened, and why this moment is bigger than football, smash that subscribe button right now, because we're about to expose everything. Let me take you inside the 2025 NFL Pro Bowl games, because what unfolded on that field in Orlando wasn't just a football moment. It was a cultural flashpoint that revealed ugly truths about sports fandom, social media toxicity, and the impossible expectations placed on young athletes before they ever get a real chance. It's early February 2025. The NFL Pro Bowl games are underway at Camping World Stadium in Orlando, Florida. The league has completely revamped the Pro Bowl over the past few years, turning it from a traditional tackle football game that nobody cared about into a week-long festival of skills competitions, flag football games, and celebrity appearances. The goal is to make it entertaining, engaging, and most importantly, marketable. And this year, the NFL made a strategic decision that would end up backfiring spectacularly. They invited top draft prospects to participate alongside current NFL stars. The idea was simple: generate buzz, give fans a preview of the next generation of talent, create viral moments that would dominate social media and drive viewership. Among the invited prospects was Shedeur Sanders. Now, Shedeur's invitation made perfect sense from a marketing perspective. He's the son of Deion "Primetime" Sanders, one of the most famous athletes in American history. He just finished a productive college career at Colorado, where he threw for over 7,300 yards and 64 touchdowns in 2 seasons. He's projected as a first-round pick. He has hundreds of thousands of social media followers. He's charismatic, confident, and carries the kind of star power that the NFL craves. But Shedeur's presence at the Pro Bowl also came with baggage. He's been one of the most polarizing figures in college football, not because of anything he did wrong, but because of who his father is and the spotlight that comes with that name. Some people love him, see him as a talented quarterback who's earned his success. Others resent him, view him as overhyped, privileged, a product of his father's influence rather than his own merit. That division was about to explode in the most public way possible. The Pro Bowl flag football game was scheduled for Sunday afternoon, the final event of the week. It's a casual, fun format where current NFL players team up and play 7-on-7 flag football. No tackling, no real pressure, just entertainment for the fans who showed up and the millions watching on television. Shedeur was assigned to one of the teams, playing alongside established NFL stars. The broadcast hyped his appearance. Cameras followed him during warm-ups. Announcers talked about his draft stock, his college highlights, his famous father who was in attendance, watching from a luxury suite. The game started. The first few possessions were uneventful, typical Pro Bowl stuff. Players joking around, making highlight plays, having fun. And then Shedeur's team got the ball. He walked up to the line of scrimmage for his first offensive snap. The crowd noise picked up, a mix of cheers and anticipation. The offensive line set. Shedeur stood in the shotgun formation, surveyed the defense, and called for the snap. But before the ball was even hiked, the whistle blew. False start. Offensive penalty. 5-yard setback. Now, here's the thing about false starts in flag football. They're common. They don't really matter. It's a casual exhibition game with virtually no stakes. Players false start all the time in Pro Bowls and nobody cares. It's usually met with laughter, maybe some light teasing from teammates. But when Shedeur committed that false start, something different happened.
A section of the crowd, maybe 200 people concentrated in one area of the stadium, started chanting. At first, it was hard to make out what they were saying, but then the chant got louder, more coordinated, more clear. Cancel Shedeur! Cancel Shedeur! Cancel Shedeur! The chant echoed through the stadium. It was picked up by the broadcast microphones. Commentators went silent for a moment, clearly caught off guard. Cameras panned to the crowd, showing a group of fans, many of them wearing rival college team gear, some holding signs, all chanting in unison. On the field, Shedeur's body language changed. He looked toward the crowd, seemed to register what was happening, then turned back to the huddle. His teammates looked confused. Some of the NFL veterans on his team visibly shook their heads, frustrated by what they were hearing. The broadcast tried to move on quickly. The announcers made awkward comments about passionate fans and emotions running high before refocusing on the game. But the damage was done. The moment was captured, and within minutes it was all over social media. Video clips of the chant started spreading on Twitter, now X. The hashtag #CancelShedeur began trending. Within an hour, it had over 50,000 tweets. People were sharing the video, adding commentary, taking sides, and the reaction split into two very distinct camps.
On one side, you had people defending the chant. These were mostly fans of rival college programs, people who disliked Colorado's rise under Deion Sanders, critics who believed Shedeur was overrated and overhyped. They argued that the chant was just fans expressing their opinion, that Shedeur needed to develop thicker skin, that if he can't handle some heckling at a Pro Bowl, how's he going to handle a hostile NFL stadium? On the other side, you had people appalled by what happened. They pointed out that this wasn't normal heckling or booing. This was a coordinated attempt to humiliate a 22-year-old kid who hadn't even been drafted yet. They called it toxic, cruel, and a reflection of the worst aspects of sports fandom, amplified by social media mob mentality. Former NFL players were among the most vocal defenders of Shedeur. Several prominent veterans took to social media and television to call out the fans who participated in the chant. They pointed out that false starts happened to everyone, that this was a meaningless exhibition game, and that targeting a rookie prospect like this was completely out of line. Shannon Sharpe, the Hall of Fame tight end and media personality, went off on his podcast. He called the chanting fans classless and said they should be ashamed of themselves for going after a kid who's done nothing but work hard and represent his family with dignity. He also pointed out the racial undertones, noting that Shedeur, a young black quarterback with confidence and star power, was being targeted in ways that white quarterbacks at similar events rarely experience. That comment sparked another wave of debate. Some people agreed, pointing to the long history of black quarterbacks being held to different standards, facing more criticism, having their intelligence and leadership questioned in ways that white quarterbacks don't. Others pushed back, arguing that this had nothing to do with race and everything to do with Shedeur's perceived arrogance and his father's outsized personality. But while the debate raged online, something else was happening behind the scenes at the Pro Bowl, and this is where the story gets even more intense. According to multiple sources who were present in Orlando, Deion Sanders was furious. After witnessing the chant from his luxury suite, Prime Time reportedly made his way down to field level and had a heated conversation with NFL security and event organizers. He demanded to know how a coordinated attack on his son was allowed to happen at an NFL-sanctioned event, why security didn't intervene, and what the league planned to do about it. The NFL, caught completely off guard by the situation, scrambled to respond. According to insiders, league officials were divided on how to handle it. Some wanted to issue a statement condemning the fans' behavior and expressing support for Shedeur. Others worried that acknowledging the incident would only amplify it, giving the trolls exactly what they wanted, attention. In the end, the NFL chose a middle path.
They issued a brief, generic statement saying that the Pro Bowl is meant to be a celebration of football and that all participants deserve respect. It was corporate, safe, and satisfied nobody. Meanwhile, back on the field, Shedeur had to keep playing. And here's where his character showed. Instead of letting the moment break him, instead of sulking or losing focus, he locked in. On the very next play after the false start, he threw a perfect deep ball for a touchdown. He celebrated with his teammates, pointed to the crowd, and kept playing with confidence and swagger. That response earned him praise from NFL veterans and analysts who watched the game. They saw a young quarterback who refused to be rattled, who responded to adversity with performance, who showed the kind of mental toughness that translates to the next level. But the viral moment wasn't the touchdown. It was the chant. That's what spread across social media. That's what dominated the conversation. And that's what turned the Pro Bowl into a referendum on Deion Sanders, his place in the NFL, and the toxic culture that surrounds modern sports. Let's dig deeper into why this happened, because the "Cancel Shedeur" chant didn't come out of nowhere. It's the culmination of years of building resentment and manufactured controversy.
Shedeur Sanders has been in the spotlight since he was a teenager. As the son of Deion Sanders, he grew up with expectations that most young athletes never face. When he played high school football in Texas, every game was covered by media. When he committed to Jackson State to play for his father, it became a national story. When he followed Deion to Colorado, it turned into the biggest storyline in college football. Throughout his college career, Shedeur has been confident, sometimes bordering on tacky in the eyes of critics. He's posted on social media with swagger, he's celebrated big plays demonstratively, he's carried himself like a star. And for some people, that confidence reads as arrogance, as entitlement, as a kid who thinks he's already made it before proving anything at the professional level. Add to that the massive media attention Colorado received under Deion Sanders. The Buffaloes were the most talked about team in college football in 2023, even though they finished with a losing record. Critics accused Deion of being all hype and no substance, of being more interested in self-promotion than building a sustainable program. And Shedeur, as Deion's quarterback and son, became the face of that criticism. Then came the draft process. Mock drafts projected Shedeur as a first-round pick, which some analysts and fans thought was too high. Debates raged about whether his production at Colorado was legitimate or inflated by the offensive system and the talent around him. Questions were raised about his arm strength, his ability to create outside of structure, his readiness for NFL defenses. All of that discourse created a perfect storm of polarization. People either loved Shedeur or hated him, with very little middle ground. And when he showed up at the Pro Bowl, representing the next generation of NFL quarterbacks, all of that pent-up negativity found an outlet. The false start was just the trigger. It could have been anything. A bad throw, a fumbled snap, a miscommunication with a receiver. The fans who chanted "Cancel Shedeur" were waiting for a moment, any moment, to unleash their hostility. And when that moment came, they took it. But here's what those fans didn't count on. The backlash would be swift and severe. Within 24 hours of the incident, multiple NFL teams that were considering drafting Shedeur reportedly reached out to his representation to express support and to distance themselves from the fans' behavior. According to sources, these teams wanted to make it clear that they evaluated Shedeur based on his football ability, not on social media narratives or toxic fan reactions. But here's what those fans didn't count on. The backlash would be swift and severe. Within 24 hours of the incident, multiple NFL teams that were considering drafting Shedeur reportedly reached out to his representation to express support and to distance themselves from the fans' behavior. According to sources, these teams wanted to make it clear that they evaluated Shedeur based on his football ability, not on social media narratives or toxic fan reactions. The Las Vegas Raiders, who've been heavily linked to Shedeur for months, reportedly had a conversation with the Sanders family directly, reassuring them that Las Vegas would be a supportive environment if Shedeur ended up there. The New York Giants, another team in the quarterback market, did something similar. These teams understood something that the chanting fans didn't. In today's NFL, marketability matters. Star power matters. And Shedeur Sanders, despite the controversy or perhaps because of it, has undeniable star power. He brings attention, eyeballs, social media engagement. He's the kind of player who can sell tickets and jerseys even before he throws his first NFL touchdown. Meanwhile, the debate continued to rage across sports media. ESPN dedicated multiple segments to the incident. Analysts argued about whether Shedeur deserved sympathy or whether he'd brought this on himself through his public persona. Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith had a heated exchange on First Take, with Stephen A. defending Shedeur passionately and Skip questioning whether he had the mental makeup to succeed in the NFL. But perhaps the most important reaction came from within the NFL's player community. Multiple active players, including several Pro Bowl quarterbacks, spoke out in defense of Shedeur. They shared stories about their own experiences with hostile fans, the mental challenges of playing under constant scrutiny, and the importance of supporting young players entering the league. Patrick Mahomes, the reigning MVP and arguably the face of the NFL, was asked about the incident during a media appearance. His response was telling. He said that every quarterback faces adversity, that the best ones use it as motivation, and that he had no doubt Shedeur would thrive at the next level regardless of what some fans chanted at an exhibition game. That endorsement from Mahomes carried weight. It signaled to NFL teams, to the media, and to fans that Shedeur had the respect of his peers, the people who actually understand what it takes to play quarterback at the highest level. As the days passed and the initial shock of the incident faded, a clearer picture emerged. The "Cancel Shedeur" chant, which was meant to humiliate and diminish a young quarterback, had actually backfired. It had generated sympathy for Shedeur, exposed the toxicity of a segment of sports fandom, and ultimately reinforced the narrative that he's a player worth paying attention to.
The video of the chant was viewed millions of times, but so was the video of Shedeur's touchdown pass immediately afterward. The image of him responding to hate with performance became the lasting takeaway for many people. Draft analysts noted that NFL teams don't make decisions based on fan reactions at Pro Bowl games. They evaluate tape, measurables, interviews, character, work ethic. And by all accounts, Shedeur's draft stock wasn't damaged by the incident. If anything, his response to it reinforced the mental toughness that scouts value. But the scars from that moment will last. Deion Sanders will carry the memory of standing on that field, hearing hundreds of people chant for his cancellation, feeling the weight of unjustified hate. That's a burden no 22-year-old should have to carry, especially for something as insignificant as a false start in a meaningless game. And that's the real tragedy here. Not that Shedeur was affected, he clearly wasn't, but that we've created a sports culture where this kind of behavior is normalized, where fans feel entitled to attack young athletes, where social media amplifies the worst impulses, and where a simple mistake becomes an excuse for mob cruelty. The Pro Bowl drama will be remembered as one of the most shocking moments of the 2025 offseason, not because of what Shedeur did, but because of what was done to him. And as he prepares for the NFL draft and the next chapter of his career, that moment in Orlando will serve as both a warning and a source of strength. He knows what he's walking into. He knows the scrutiny will be intense, and he knows he can handle it.